From the banks of the Colorado River in Lake Mead to the homes and businesses in Southern Nevada, welcome to Water Smarts, the podcast pumping from the heart of Las Vegas, where we engage with the experts who keep the water flowing throughout Southern Nevada. I'm Bronson Mack.
And I'm Zuelke. From how we treat it, deliver it, use it, protect it, and conserve it, the Water Smarts podcast is all about water in Southern Nevada. We hope to make you a little smarter about the one thing that keeps us all connected: water.
Hey, Crystal, how are you today?
I'm pretty good, Bronson. You know why? It's my favorite time of the year. It's fall.
Oh, fall is your favorite time of the year, too? I love it. I love the pumpkins. Not so much seeing the leaves change because it doesn't really happen here in Southern Nevada, but like my indoor fall decor at my house, putting that up, seeing the orange leaves. I love the fall season, too.
Well, for me, it's all about just cooler weather because the summers are so brutal sometimes. But this year we had a little reprieve. We had cooler temperatures and we had a break with the monsoon rains that came through this year. So I didn't even have to run my irrigation a lot of that, even up to 3 days a week. I think we turned ours off several times, saved a little on the water bill. And yeah.
That is great to hear. We are recording this in mid-September. So we are a couple of weeks into the fall watering restrictions. Everybody needs to make sure that they are only watering on their 3 assigned days per week. We are going to stay in the fall watering restrictions until October 31st. Some people call that Halloween. Some people call that the real Nevada Day. But whatever you call it, make sure you call it the day to go change your sprinkler clock to 1 day a week, because winter watering restrictions begin on November 1st. Make your way back out to that sprinkler clock one more time this year to go from 3 days a week down to your 1 assigned day per week. Crystal, I got to also say the great thing about fall is football season. Are you a football fan?
I am not, but I don't have a choice in my house but to have it on the TV all the time.
Yeah, I got to tell you, like seeing the games back on, and especially in the evening, I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is really beginning to feel like fall now that we've got football back on. And you know what's kind of interesting about that, and especially with our guests here today, is that we're going to be talking a little bit to the school district. And the school district, they have a lot of football fields. Just about every high school in this town has a football field. And today we're going to hear a little bit from the school district about what they've been doing to conserve water, not just on the football fields, but also with non-functional grass and also with their evaporative cooling systems. You're a product of the Clark County School District, are you not, Crystal?
I am. Graduated from El Dorado High School.
El Dorado, Clark Charger right here. Look at us. Our kids are in the school district as well. And we are going to learn a little bit today about what the school district is doing to reduce their water footprint, eliminate non-functional grass, and make sure that their cooling systems are as water efficient as possible. Because today, joining us on the Water Smarts podcast, we have Mark Campbell, the Director of Sustainability, Energy, and Environmental Services for the Clark County School District. And joining Mark is JC Davis, the SNWA's Enterprise Conservation Manager. Mark and JC, welcome to the Water Smarts podcast.
Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, we are really excited to have both of you. And Mark, we're going to go ahead and start our conversation with you. But hey, JC, if you feel like there's anything to add here, please feel free to jump in. So, Mark, the school district has been participating in a number of water efficiency programs over the past, I don't even know how many years. I mean, the school district's been a great partner in water conservation. You've converted the grass at the high school football fields to synthetic turf. And your team is upgrading evaporative cooling system components to make them more water efficient. And right now, you've got the school district working on a huge project that could save this community more than 240 million gallons of water. I mean, that is significant savings. Mark, can you tell us a little bit about the Water Smart project that the school district is working on?
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here and excited to share some of the stories and some of the efforts that, many folks across the school district have really been working with partners in the community to find ways to save water. And it benefits everybody in the community. There's specific benefits to the school district also. As you mentioned, it goes back quite a while. First and foremost, many schools have put in really robust garden programs, and those garden projects were kind of our early efforts into water conservation and removing the grass that really didn't need to be there and putting in something useful for the students and the community. And then, as you mentioned, we have a really big project that we're in the midst of right now, and we're really excited to take and work with the Water Authority. We've had some really great timing in targeting these non-play turf areas. That area of turf that we're really just mowing the grass and trying to keep it growing. And it's hard to maintain in the middle of the desert. And it's especially challenging for the school district when it doesn't really have a use for us in the same way that play fields and other sporting fields do. So we've taken on a lot of assessment work, a lot of inspections for years to target those campuses and those areas where we have our largest opportunities. We're in the midst now, we're about 20 projects in to massive conversion of those non-functional turf areas into desert landscaping and other water-friendly landscapes for our schools. And we've seen already a lot of benefits on the water consumption side and the maintenance side. And it's been really nice to work with the principals to make sure that we leave it in a way that they're happy with.
Mark, I'm not sure if you mentioned how many schools are part of this plan, but I believe it's 195 campuses throughout the valley. So let's talk a little bit about the plan for each school. You mentioned you meet with the principals, you probably walk through the campus and kind of identify these areas that can be kept for recreation and then the ones that need to come out. How will you implement such a huge project with limited staff and the budget constraints that exist throughout the district?
You know, you mentioned the challenges that the school district faces and the community faces, and we do work hard to prioritize our work. And I think being a partner in the community, we need to make long-term investments. And so the district has prioritized this work. We've worked with our construction management department. We work with our facilities department to properly scope these projects. And we try to do it, again, as being as sensitive as we can with what's going on at the site. When we look at our pre-assessment data, that's basically a Google Earth type assessment. And so what we do is, we work with those pre-assessments and then we walk the sites. And the walks could be extensive depending on the size of the campus. It could take, a couple of hours to make sure we're lined out. We have a contractor partner who will help us build the scope of work for each site. And then we go ahead and we build a project and scope and we execute as quickly as possible. So it is going to take us years to get through this effort just simply because of the size and scale that we have. I mentioned that we are 20 schools deep and we are trying to get close to 200 sites. It's going to take us years, like I mentioned, and we're already seeing the outcomes with the projects that have been completed throughout 2022 of reduced water consumption, improved appearance on the campus where we've had difficulties maintaining grass. For example, areas under large trees that are harder to maintain where we're able to change that landscaping, make it more manageable and better looking.
Yeah, and I guess just as a quick follow-up there, when you consider the large number of high schools that are currently in Southern Nevada, you have high schools going back from, the 1950s up to the 20-teens or 2020s probably even being constructed. So that's a lot of property. And especially with those older schools where grass was the dominant landscape feature that you would put at a school, whether it was a parking lot or the corner area of the front of the school. I have to imagine as you're going out and doing some of those walking surveys of the property, you're really getting a sense of how students are using those areas, how many students are crossing those areas, and just how functional that grass is, which probably does make it a little easier to determine whether or not that grass needs to go or if it should stay.
You're exactly right. We want to honor the way that the schools have been built and designed. That includes the campus. And so there have been areas where we worked with the principal or assistant principal, and they were very clear that, this area provides us a wonderful benefit in the afternoon or for specific programs in and around pickups, in and around special courses that the school may have. And so we, worked with them to customize those designs and keep those areas. And then some of the other designs that we have converted are historical areas where we didn't have to be as concerned about water when things were being built, many years ago. And you ended up with some, I'll just say, interesting areas of grass that it just makes sense now in the environment that we're in to go ahead and make those desert landscape experience with the right kind of rock and the right kind of plants to reduce water consumption and still keep a character and a great look at the school.
So, Mark, as you know, the Nevada State Legislature passed a law in 2021 that prohibits the use of Colorado River water to irrigate non-functional grass by the end of 2026 throughout the valley. For our listeners, this law targets businesses, municipal agencies, schools, and multifamily complexes. But your project has been considered for some time. It will ensure that the school district is in compliance with the new law, but that really wasn't the impetus for the school district to take up this project. Can you tell us why the school district decided to upgrade the landscape at these schools you identified?
Yeah, first and foremost, we're trying to be proactive when it comes to resource consumption across the board. And that goes from water to electricity to fossil fuels and our fleet and all of the resources that it takes to operate in the valley. We have several areas of consumptive water use that we felt responsible to work on. The reason that the district decided to prioritize this and the reason we were able to start executing over the last year and a half is because of the benefits to just the community and the school district, from water resource conservation to maintenance reductions. And so we're already dealing with short staffing in all areas, and being able to put in drip irrigation, plants that require less maintenance. It benefits us in labor, it benefits us in materials, it benefits us in fuel. And so we felt it was a prudent investment for the school district to be looking at this. It's great to see that the Water Authority and the state have worked together to make it more broadly applied across the community. And we're obviously a partner in that, and we'll continue our efforts.
Well, Mark, so you've got nearly 200 schools getting rid of that non-functional grass over the next 5 years. Just a little back of the envelope math tells me that's about 40 schools a year. And my understanding is that you are applying for the Southern Nevada Water Authority's Water Smart Landscape rebate for each of these schools. That's going to help cover some of the cost. Can you just talk a little bit about how that $3 a square foot incentive might have helped influence the district's decision to move forward on such an aggressive and really important turf conversion project?
The partnership with the Water Authority through the rebates and just helping to identify and scope projects has been wonderful for the district, and I think wonderful for the community. And so the rebates make a huge difference for us, because every time we get dollars back on a project, we apply those rebates right back to the funds that are used to do these projects. So it just means we're going to get to do the next school, and then we're going to get to do the next school. And so the $3 a square foot rebate is a very significant amount of money to be able to receive back as a rebate on a project, because it allows us to then apply those funds right back to the next project in line. And that just means we'll be able to extend the dollars to more projects.
JC, did you have any comment here to add?
Well, I would add a couple of things. Obviously, the water savings is important, and the school district has been very proactive. In fact, I would go so far. I deal with entities in the private sector and the public sector across the board. We do not have a better partner than the Clark County School District. Their ability to envision a project and then execute a project and stay on track and do all of those things that we need to be successful has been a tremendous asset. What we see is when we're dealing with other entities, they see what the school district is doing. And that creates some obligation or some pressure on their part to say, okay, the school district is leaning in hard and doing the right thing for this community. Because unless you're living in a cave, you have a pretty good idea of the water resource challenges that Southern Nevada is facing. And to have an entity like the Clark County School District coming in, leaning in so strong, being so proactive, doing really good landscape designs so that when they're done, people go, oh, this wasn't scorched earth. You actually turned it into something that was more attractive than the landscape that was there before. It's a big deal. And they're even sort of tertiary bleed over, right? So think about all the parents that are going to all of those schools around the valley to pick up their kids, drop them off at practice, whatever. And what do they see? They see beautiful landscapes and go, the school district is actually trying to be really water conscious. And they did a really nice job with this. Do we really need that turf in the front yard anymore? Those kind of things subliminally make a difference. And so the implications of what the CCSD has done really can't be overstated.
If you've lived in Southern Nevada for any length of time, hopefully you're aware of the Water Authority's rebates for homeowners and business owners. But if you're relatively new to Southern Nevada, you may not know about all the rebates that the Water Authority offers to help property owners save water. JC, for our listeners who don't, can you give us a quick overview of the Water Smart Landscapes rebate program and then any other rebates that we offer?
Sure. I mean, we offer a lot of rebates across the board, and sort of our motto is if it saves water, chances are we'll help pay for it. And so I guess we'll start at Water Smart Landscapes. Obviously, there is a single family residential tract that homeowners can take advantage of. The terms are really the same, but it's very rare for a homeowner to get over 10,000 square feet. And so they can expect to get $3 a foot for that conversion, which if you hire somebody pays for a good chunk of that project, and then the water savings pays for the rest. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, chances are you can cover the entire cost just with our incentive. On the non-residential side, right, and that can apply from everything from apartment complexes to business parks to the school district, you name it. We offer that same $3 for the first 10,000 square feet and then $1.50 thereafter. What we did recently is we actually removed the cap. There used to be an annual limit to how much we would give you. But we wanted these larger enterprises to be able to take advantage of the economies of scale, because once you get the trucks rolling and you start getting the plant deliveries and the material deliveries, it makes sense to do it all at once. And so we didn't want them to have to phase it out just in order to optimize the incentive. That obviously is the flagship program for the Water Authority. But we have a lot of other ones. For homeowners, for instance, if you want what they call a smart irrigation controller, when it rains, the smart irrigation controller will shut off your irrigation system. We found that that is also a particularly effective program for HOAs. You can significantly reduce the water bills associated with HOA landscaping just by irrigating smarter. I think there's a lot of water savings to be had just by improving the efficiency of how we irrigate. It's one of the reasons that the watering schedule is so important. A lot of people way back in the day, and I've been here a while, they used to treat setting their irrigation clock as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And they would just set it up and it would water every day for 3 or 4 times a day, and it would just go. And they literally would water the same in January as they did in July. And it's idiotic on any level, but it's costing them a lot of money, because if you've got grass and you're irrigating it more than you should, you're paying a lot for that water. And so why not save the water? It's not helping your landscape. Other kind of incentives, we have obviously car wash coupons, which the way we've had the monsoons the last month, you got to wash your car about once every 5 days, because just as soon as it gets dry, it'll rain on it again. We have all sorts of incentives that people can go to snwa.com and check out, whether they're on the residential side or they're on the business side. For the businesses, we have this broad-based program called Water Efficient Technologies, which Mark mentioned for like evaporative cooling units. It could be something as simple as an ice machine upgrade, because they use more water than you would suspect, and not just for the making of the ice, it's for the cooling of the ice. But where our focus really is right now is evaporative cooling, because after landscape irrigation, evaporative cooling is the largest consumptive use of water in this valley. It's not just the big resorts with giant cooling towers. Drive by any warehouse you see as you're going down the 215 and they're lined on both sides. Chances are those warehouses have swamp coolers on them. And so we're trying to get people to replace those swamp coolers with air-cooled units. And there are some remarkably efficient air-cooled units out now. And we will pay up to half of the cost of that project, because we really want to reduce our consumptive water use in this community, not just for the sake of our future, but frankly, for the sake of our present. We took a 8 billion gallon haircut effective next January. We took a 7 billion gallon haircut this last year. And things are not trending the right way on the Colorado River. So what that means is that we're going to have to do a lot more with a lot less. And in order to avoid the really draconian measures that other communities downstream are going to have to look at if Lake Mead goes to Deadpool, we're going to have to be smart about what we do. And then we can all manage with just a little bit of effort. I guess the only other thing I would say is that people can go to snwa.com for information about water efficient technologies. They can also just reach out to me directly if they want it, 702-822-8545. And we will literally provide concierge service for people who want to change out their projects.
JC, that's great to hear. You made a reference there that little goes a long way. If we're all doing a little bit to conserve, that has big implications for us. You talked a lot about rebate programs. Why don't you talk a little bit about some of the policies that are coming up that have some effect to particular sectors of our community? Would you just share a little bit about some of the policies that are emerging and being adopted in our community?
Sure. I mean, the one that's front and center, obviously, is AB 356, which is the name of the law that prohibits irrigation of non-functional turf effective January 2027, right? Most people live in HOAs in Southern Nevada, and a lot of these HOAs have turf, and they're having to replace it with drip irrigated landscapes. And it's surprising how much resistance there is among the board members in some cases, particularly in some of the more affluent communities. What's funny is the residents are actually completely on board, but the board members not so much, because they're going to say, how am I supposed to walk my dog if I don't have that strip of grass between the sidewalk and the curb? Now, I've personally tested this theory, and there is not going to be a defecation strike if they take that turf out and replace it with drip irrigated landscaping. I have tested it multiple times, multiple surfaces actually. And so they're thinking about this stuff the wrong way. And frankly, that's what makes what Mark and the school district is doing such a good example, right? Because the school district didn't come in and say, okay, letter of the law, what do I have to do? How can I minimize the amount of turf that I have to remove? Which frankly, I'm getting way too much of in the community. The school district came in and said, what's the spirit of the law? What are we trying to do here? What we're trying to do is say, if the only purpose of that turf is aesthetic, if it's just for looking at and nobody is actually using it, why are we putting 10 feet worth of water on it every year? Let's do something smarter. Let's do something that has equal or better aesthetics and uses 75% less water. The school district really has embraced the spirit of what AB 356 was supposed to do. And frankly, that is a great example that I wish more people would follow. Other policies, people often ask me about golf courses. So golf courses have been on water budgets for about 20 years now, but obviously things have changed in terms of our water supply condition, and they're getting a haircut, a pretty significant one. The golf course water budget is going to drop by about 30%. We are looking at an effective date, sort of a start date on the clock on that, of 2024 in terms of when that monitoring period begins. And while a couple of golf courses that I'm not going to name because I don't want to get in trouble have been pretty vehemently opposed, the vast majority has said, yeah, we are turf farmers in the middle of the driest spot in North America. We should probably step up and do the right thing. And what's funny about that is that they don't actually, in a lot of cases, even have to remove turf. Some of them do. But just by going from a cool season grass to a warm season grass, they can save almost 30% off their water use without actually taking out any grass. The other things that they are doing, and we're helping incentivize this, they're upgrading their irrigation systems, not just their controllers. But you got to remember, a lot of these courses were built like back in the 80s and 90s. And so they are leaking like sieves. And the golf course operators know that, but they've never had the money to invest in upgrading it and fixing it. So we are providing both irrigation expertise in the form of people who do this for a living to come out and look at their system and find the big problems, and incentives to help them invest in improving the efficiency of those systems. So we're not all stick. Yes, there are some punitive measures that we've implemented, but we've got some carrots too. And so we're trying to help people along this path to water efficiency. The other one that's coming in, and unless you're a commercial developer, you probably don't care very much. We are looking at putting a moratorium on evaporative cooling in new construction. So it doesn't mean that all of the tens of thousands of swamp coolers in the valley have to get ripped out and replaced, although we will help them pay if they're willing to do that. but it means that moving forward, you have to develop in a different way. You have to develop with respect for the climate that we are in. What you got to understand about this is in most parts of the country, because the humidity is higher, evaporative cooling isn't even an option. So it's not like you can't evaporative cool. It works just fine with dry cooling. They just don't want to because water has always been really cheap and it's a good way to go. And so there are a lot of new and better technologies, both on the side of not installing that new evaporative system and in improving the efficiency of your existing evaporative system. So we're doing both simultaneously. And then obviously the other one that was the limit to a sensible square footage on residential swimming pools. There were people, and there was a term I particularly liked called poolscaping. And that's exactly what it was, because there were limits on turf and they went, fine, I won't put in turf in my house that I visit twice a year. I'm going to put in 4,000 square feet of pool feature instead. That new rule put a stop to that. And that only makes sense because let's face it, a 600 square foot of pool in a residential setting, that's plenty. You can swim your laps in that.
So great to hear all of this wonderful information with regards to water conservation, especially all the great things that the Clark County School District is doing here for our community to save water, to help ensure that the operations of the school district remain as efficient as possible. Mark and JC, thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing with our listeners on the Water Smarts podcast.
Thank you so much, Bronson. Thank you very much, Crystal, for having us on the show today.
Thank you, Bronson and Crystal, and also thank you to Mark. We've really enjoyed working with you and appreciate the opportunity to continue to do so.
In the desert, water waste is considered especially costly. In southern Nevada, the detectives who investigate these wasteful violations are members of a dedicated squad known as the Water Waste Investigators.
What's going on?
Neighbor called it in. Classic cold blue busted sprinkler. Found runoff going down the street. That can be a big fine.
For wasting water?
Yep, up to $5,000 for repeated violations.
Avoid costly fines, prevent runoff, and fix broken sprinklers. Learn more at snwa.com. SNWA is a not-for-profit water agency.
Well, Crystal, another great conversation. Good to hear from the school district. Good to hear from JC talking about all of those different conservation programs, huh?
Yeah, I met with Mark a couple years ago and we did an interview with him about, at the time, the school district was converting a lot of the football fields to the turf. So, you know, like he said, this has been going on for a while, so it's really nice to see. I did want to say to JC's funny comment about the strikes that dogs aren't going on. I have to agree. My dog would not be joining that strike. He's totally fine. I see him go out in the backyard on our rocks. And I also have artificial turf, and he will lay on that in 100-degree weather. No problem.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's
when
all good.
A dog's got to go, whether it's grass or rock. That's just the way it is. But obviously, getting rid of that non-functional grass, that has far-reaching effects for our water supply, especially when you consider everything that is used indoors gets recycled and returned back to Lake Mead, and every gallon we put back in Lake Mead allows us to take another gallon out and bring it through the drinking water treatment process. This is how we stretch our water supply. So water we use outdoors, we only get to use once, and it is gone forever. This is why we focus these conservation efforts outdoors. This is why we are so appreciative of the work of the Clark County School District to update those sports fields, as well as their evaporative cooling systems. Just great stuff from a great community partner. Well, that's it for this episode here on Water Smarts. We hope you subscribe. Don't forget to listen next time. Feel free to send us questions. We have been getting questions. Really appreciate it. We are responding to those questions independently, but a lot of those questions are things we've already covered here on the podcast. So feel free to keep firing them our way. And if we think that there's relevance to our larger listener base, we will absolutely read it on the air. You can reach us or send us those questions by email at watersmarts@snwa.com. That's watersmarts@snwa.com. Or just go to our website, snwa.com. You can hit us through the contact page. We'll get back to you with an answer. And like I said, if your question's pretty solid, maybe we'll hear it on the air. So thank you for listening, and we hope you join us here next time on Water Smarts.